how have Jerry and Justin done this offseason? Not necessarily the Mariners as a whole, but let's start with Jerry and Justin. How have they done this offseason?
I think with the strictures that were in place in terms of payroll, like, you know, you can look at 54% and be bothered by that, and rightfully so. And you can look at ownership and say the most talented player we've ever seen is a free agent, and we didn't even bother making a perfunctory offer to him. And you can say that, you know, an incredible hitter, one of the best of his generation, was available in a trade, and we really didn't go after him because of the finances. And you can be angry about that because it is reasonable and rational and understandable. But if we're just looking in the vacuum that the Mariners had X amount of dollars and they needed to construct a roster within that framework, I think they've done a pretty good job. I think that the individuals who they have brought in this offseason, the latest being Gregory Santos and Mitch Garver and Luke Raley and Jorge Polanco probably being the biggest of all. Like, I think this is a good team, man. And I think the moves that they've made, even since trading Suarez and Kelenic, have been value positive. And the balance that they've been able to strike, which is we are not going to trade the foundational guys that we have in our rotation and in the minor leagues. So, those are two interesting groups, right? We know Julio's not going anywhere. We know Cal's not going anywhere. But those very desirable guys on the position side on the big league roster, there aren't a whole lot of them right now. On the big league side, it's pitching. They could have traded any of the four young guys, or five if you want to include Emerson Hancock, that they had, and done well. They similarly could have traded Colt Emerson, who's their best prospect, or Harry Ford, or Cole Young, and gone out and gotten someone, but they haven't done that either. And I think the balance between 2024 and the coming years where these young players are going to ascend and join this core, I think they've done a really good job striking it, actually, after the beginning of a winter that was just an absolute nightmare in terms of public relations.
Is there a free agent available that could tip the scales even more?
Probably not one that they can afford.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
you mentioned,
right?
Jeffrey, you mentioned 54%. And by the way, a 540 winning percentage in 162 games is 87, which kind of feels a little bit like where some of these projections are for the Mariners, somewhere between 85, 86.5, 87. Yeah. Is a Bellinger, is a Chapman, is an arm, is there a veteran free agent that you think you could sign right now and say, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden this becomes a 90-plus win team?
Yeah, absolutely. If they went and got Cody Bellinger, or if they went and got Blake Snell, that changes the calculus. I don't think they're playing in that sandbox, Brock. That's the thing. I don't find any of those to be particularly realistic at this point. Now, there's a chance that the market craters to the point where the Mariners say, we would be foolish not to engage here. And they go to John Stanton and say, we have an opportunity, like a real opportunity to enhance this team now and going into the future. And we should take advantage because market opportunities like this don't come along very often. We're not at that point yet. And I'm not sure that we're going to get there. But, if you bring in Bellinger or Snell, it absolutely does that.
What is going on with Bellinger and Chapman? What is going on with those guys? Why are they not signed right now?
Are they Boras guys?
Yes.
Yes. All four of the big guys left are Boras guys. Snell, Montgomery, Bellinger, and Chapman. And I think it's very simple. The players have set a line in the sand. And nobody is willing to cross that line at this point because teams see that line as unreasonable and players see that line as what the market value should be as opposed to what the market is showing. And it's a staring contest. It's a game of chicken. It's them, saying, I am willing to wait. And I believe that you, and by you they mean 30 teams, I believe that your desire to sign me is strong enough that waiting is not going to impede me. And look, in past cases, it has worked, whether it's with Scott Boras clients. Like, Bryce Harper was going to get $300+ million. He just wound up getting it in March. Manny Machado, I don't know if he was going to get 300, but he got 300, and that was done in March. But with a guy like Mike Moustakas a few years ago, he turned down the qualifying offer, which I believe was about $17 million, and ended up signing a 1-year, $6 million deal with Kansas City because the market just never formed. And, at some point, and maybe some point soon, we're going to get to a place where, the market that you may have anticipated is just not going to be there. So what do you do? Do you wait? Do you wait for an injury? Do you wait for a team that just starts feeling a little bit more desperate or isn't looking the way that it should in spring training? I mean, there are a million things that change the calculi involved in free agency. But right now, we're just in a holding pattern. And until either the players drop their ask or one of the teams steps up in earnest, I think that holding pattern is not going to move.
Who's the player most likely to have his market tank enough to potentially be affordable?
Chapman, I would think.
And is that just because he didn't play that well, didn't put up gaga numbers in Toronto last year?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Matt Chapman's splits last year, he was out of this world in the first 6 or so weeks of the season. And after that, just wasn't very good. The defense isn't where it was once upon a time when he was winning, I think, 2 Platinum Gloves. So this is a guy who has been legitimately elite at third base and frankly would look fantastic in a Mariners uniform and in the Mariners lineup right now. But I think at this point, they are resolved to doing a Luis Arias, Josh Rojas platoon and playing the numbers on that and hoping the platoon advantage takes these players who are fine. Okay, they're big leaguers, but they may not be more. And the platoon advantage, in theory, gives them a greater chance to maximize their potential.
Yeah, you mentioned the numbers there. Jeff Passan here with us. Absolute blast to catch up. Baseball season right around the corner where we will do this regularly, I hope and believe. Speaking of numbers, starting pitching and bullpen combined, the Mariners, the best arms in Major League Baseball. When you combine the 5 starters with the bottom end or the 3 highest leverage relievers, is there a case to be made based on numbers that this is the best arms in all of baseball?
Are you including full bullpen depth, or are you just saying when we're in October and we need our starting pitcher to go out and dominate, and then we can go Santos, Brash, Munoz in some order, or are you talking bullpen depth too? Because I think the bullpen depth now, this is an important thing to note. Just because there haven't been guys or as many guys who come into this spring having performed in the past, just because that's the case doesn't mean that the Mariners back end, the depth parts in that bullpen. Because one thing I think we all agreed, it's objective and clear. The Mariners do a good job at taking arms and making them into something. It's part of the secret sauce that they've got going on right now and has been a big part of their success over the past couple of years. So there is going to be someone in the same way that it was, Gabe Spire for a while last year, in the same way that it was, Matt Festa the year before, just guys you expect nothing out of who turn out to be pretty productive. If we're just talking, though, rotation plus back end of the bullpen, maybe you could argue Atlanta. Maybe.
But that's about it.
There's just, the the Mariners starting pitching is just really good. I don't have to tell you guys that. You know how good they are. Maybe you look at Philadelphia. I don't think the rotation depth is there. Top end, I would probably take Zach Wheeler over anyone that the Mariners have. Aaron Nola is really good. Got $175 million this offseason, and Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez. And Philadelphia's back end bullpen arms are nasty. Very similar, in fact, to just the kind of stuff that you're seeing with the Mariners. But the teams you would look at otherwise, like Tampa Bay, now they're too injured right now. Toronto's pretty good. Toronto's got some very good arms in that rotation, and their bullpen depth stinks, but the back end of it is pretty strong. Houston, you could make a case, right?
Yep.
Like Verlander, Fromber at the top of the rotation, Christian Javier, back end of the bullpen with Josh Hader and Ryan Presley.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty lights out, man.
Yeah.
So Houston, I think Houston is in the conversation there. But yeah, if you want to make that argument, I think you're probably right.
All right, let me ask you a dumb question. Since you said I was a moron when I was 16.
As opposed to all the others.
I know. Here we go. No, it's a dumb question because I don't know how you're going to answer it, but I'll ask you anyway. Is there any sort of a secret sauce to starting the year hot? Because it sure seems to have been an issue for the Mariners the last few years. Brock's brought this up a couple of times, that every year they kind of dig themselves a hole in April and into May. And thankfully, the last couple of years, they've had phenomenal Julys and August. But is there any secret to starting fast?
This isn't like the NFL where you have your 15-play script at the beginning of every game, right? And this isn't like the NBA where talent almost universally wins during the regular season. Like in the NBA, the best teams, you tend to know who they are pretty early on. Baseball just doesn't have anything like that. And I'm sorry, that's a dissatisfactory answer, because you would think if we can quantify all kinds of different things, maybe we could figure this out too. If that exists, like the way that you get off to a hot start, I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to do a little personal time with Passan. We're gonna sneak. I got two actually, pretty quick questions, but just. Gosh, so good, man. You like the We Are the World? Have you seen the doc?
I can't believe I actually did that. That is an incredibly high note.
Yeah.
You have to be an arrogant prick to try and do
Pretty much. Have you seen the We Are the World documentary, by the way?
I watched the first 10 minutes and was just overwhelmed by the amount of star power.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Could we do anything like that today?
No, absolutely not. No.
I mean, certainly not with cell phones and social media and paparazzi and everything else. But
couldn't happen.
You're sort of the Cyndi Lauper of that, though.
That's what I'm saying. The high octane. He could totally hit whatever note. You wouldn't have to lay out, because Michael was so high up there, and Steve Perry. I mean, you just proved that you could hang with those guys. Personal time with Passan. Two quick questions. Assuming your 16-year-old son just conks out, wants to get his sleep, and said, "Dad, go down and play. Just go down and have some fun down there on the floor." Which game is Jeff Passan attacking on the casino floor?
Poker.
Oh, yeah, you are arrogant. Yeah, you really are. I mean, you said it a minute ago, but it's true. You really are cocky if you think that that's, where you're going to have your success. In order to win a poker, you have to really believe you're smarter than everyone else around you.
Well, no. We're not.
No.
I'm saying no. You didn't say where are you going to go find the greatest success.
Oh, okay.
You said where are you going to go?
Fair point. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fair.
Secondly,
you know what? I fully acknowledge. I am a good poker player for not knowing what I'm doing. I think I can read people well. I know. I don't calculate pot odds in my head quickly enough, and haven't educated myself enough there to ever become an excellent poker player, but I very much enjoy the challenge of poker.
Oh, Jeff Passan's head. Yeah, he's got a big head.
Where's that from?
Kirchen. This is Tim Kirchen saying you have a big head on our show. Yeah, he said that on our show.
You took strays when they were talking about the Bruce Bochy's head.
Oh, Bruce Bochy's head?
Yeah.
You took some strays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. It is like an objective fact, too. Like, what is your guys' threshold for when somebody tells you their hat size and you go, whoa? Like, what's a big head?
7 3/4.
Size?
7 3/4 plus.
Yeah. I'm 3/4. So there you go. Timmy was spot on. I do have like a disproportionately large dome for my body.
Hold on, there's one more part of this that Passan deserves to hear. We've never played this for him, so I think since we brought this up, he should probably hear this.
Talking to Tim Kirchen earlier today. I like him a lot better than Jeff Passan. I got to tell you, like, I just liked him much more. Like, as a person. Like, I just like talking to him more. Why did I say that? That's not very nice. Justin, I think you spliced together some things. There's no way I would have said that. Jeff's my favorite. You know that. Yeah. I never would have said that about Timmy.
Wow.
Maybe I would have.
Yeah. I'm sure Justin is just so interested in making you look bad. That he would put together audio.
Yeah, I need so much help. Somebody's got to go really splice together the audio because I never say dumb stuff on my own. You got to go splice. Okay,
I got one last baseball one. Thank you for the personal.
Mike, that was actually kind of mean.
You know what? I think if the context there probably makes some sense. I think he was being very positive about something that you and I were fighting about at the time.
He redeemed it after.
Yeah.
Like the Rangers being good?
Probably. Right. Hey, by the way, you know who else doesn't think the Rangers are very good, or at least not as good as the Mariners? Jeff, have you seen the FanGraphs baseball odds yet, or playoff odds yet?
Yeah.
They just came out a few minutes ago.
I know. I did, like, they have the Rangers at, I think, 81 wins.
They have them below the Mariners, which is kind of crazy. This doesn't have. I don't see win loss. They have them at 81 wins. They have the Mariners at 86. The Rangers at 81.
I was going to say they have them 5 games below them. I just listen. Projections do what they do. They are not infallible, but they tend to be better than what a human is going to go out and do.
Do you have a favorite
that's
projection?
One where. Like a favorite projection system?
Yeah. Like, do you trust Dan Szymborski? Do you like Pacoda? Like, what do you like?
If you go and stack them all up next to each other, they are almost identical. Like, no, I'm serious.
I know, it's true.
Just go and look at what does Pacoda have the Mariners at? 86? 85?
Yeah. But they saw the Rangers very differently, that's for sure.
I'm not quite sure why they have the Rangers as a 500. I do not have the Rangers as a 500 team. Like the Rangers won the World Series, and they're going to add a guy who's probably going to be by the end of the season like their second or third best bat. And that's not even Evan Carter, by the way. That's why it Langford.
Hey, last question for me, last baseball one, Jeff. Have a great time, by the way, in Vegas. And I did the same with my son, Titus. I took him to the national title game with Washington, Michigan. Unbelievable. Tremendous memory. Even though the Huskies didn't get it done, just a great time and something we'll remember the rest of our lives. 24 Mariners versus 23 Mariners. Just on paper. Obviously, that's all it is right now. We haven't seen this 24 Mariners team play. Just in composition, one you like more than the other?
Yeah, I think 24 is better than 23 was. But it's very easy to say that not just before the games start, but before I know starting pitching health. This whole thing hinges on the Mariners starting pitcher staying healthy, and they have managed to the last couple of years. That's not the sort of thing that tends to be the case long term. And so I hope every one of them stays healthy. I hope they go out and make the postseason. I hope they bring Seattle what, in the damn near 50 years we've seen baseball there, they haven't gotten at this point. But on paper, I like this team better than last year's.
It's not just their starting rotation, by the way. It's got to stay healthy. There's a lot of if healthy in this lineup between Mitch Haniger and Mitch Garver and Polanco and Gregory Santo. Like, there's a lot of when healthy here in this lineup. But I think I'm with you. I think on paper they're more consistent, a little bit deeper, better around the edges. And the one name that we barely mentioned in the entirety of this 25 minutes is because we just haven't talked about him enough is Julio. Yeah. If Julio is an MVP guy this year, how much different is that for this team if he's just unbelievable?
Yeah, he's been an MVP type guy in both of his seasons, though, has he not?
He was very inconsistent last year. There were a couple of months where he was unbelievable, and a huge portion of the season where he wasn't.
He finished fourth in AL MVP voting,
and yet I watched every game. And sometimes the entirety of the season does not necessarily tell the whole story. Mm-hmm. And Julio was at times incredible, but he was not carry his team throughout most of the season kind of good last year.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree that there is another gear there, but I also don't want to be guilty of licking a gift horse in the mouth.
I think that's very fair. That's a very
what a great way.
Let's
to
compromise there. That's why I love
it.
talking to you. Forget Tim Kirkchin. That guy stinks.
You are such a pandering little turd.
Justin, pull that for Tim Kirkchin next time.